Hello, and welcome to another episode of A Day in the District. I'm your host, Chelsea Whittington. A Day in the District is a program designed to help you, the viewer, stay connected to your Gary Community School Corporation. Today, I am so pleased to welcome a friend, a colleague, and a community leader in William Godwin, our Gary Common Council president. Welcome, William.
Good to see you. It's good to be here.
I am so glad you made it over to the set. What do you think?
It's beautiful.
Yes.
And this is a testament to all the improvements that are happening in the performing arts. I know athletics and academics. It's all tied together. I'm delighted to be here today.
So now, as the president of the Gary Common Council, I'm sure there are viewers that are saying, now what in the world are you having government folks on the show? But we know in the work that we do how important school corporations, educations go hand in hand with government and how we run our city and the things that our citizens and community stakeholders want and need through service of yours, as well as the services provided through the district. But before we jump into all that exciting chatter, who is William Godwin? Because you are not a Gary native, but we have adopted you as such.
That's right, and I've adopted Gary.
Okay, so where did it all start?
Yes, so I'm originally from Tennessee, Jackson, Tennessee.
Okay.
Both my parents went to Lane. I know there's a lot of Tennessee natives who are here in Gary that came many years ago. And I grew up very involved in church. I grew up in Christian Methodist Episcopal Church, CME. Grew up on Lane College's campus, worked in the president's office when I was in middle school and early part of high school. So, you know, really was exposed to a lot. Well, it was amazing. I sat at the front desk and I said, "Good morning. Welcome to the office of the president," you know?
Nice.
And took notes, answered calls, delivered mail. And so it exposed me to how a college works, but also it being a historically black college, learning about how much the community, whether it's the church, elected officials, alumni, sororities and fraternities, how all of those worlds converged within the campus. So
now
I had a lot of fun.
That's an amazing internship. I did not know that. This is facts about William Godwin. Okay, and so then after that exciting childhood,
so
what were your thoughts about your next level of education?
Yeah, so I love politics and I love government.
No.
Right. So it's no surprise that I'm an elected official to many people I grew up with. So I wanted to be in D.C.
Okay.
I had gone to some programs like the United States Senate Youth Program, which still exists. It's a competitive program nationally. There's a National Young Leaders Conference. I had done that as well. And so at that time, Bill Clinton, much of my youth, from 93 to 2000, 2001, he was the president.
Yes.
And so I knew that Bill Clinton went to Georgetown University in D.C.
Indeed.
And so that kind of made me also want to go to D.C.
Okay.
Because I wanted to be able to intern on Capitol Hill, learn about government, and go to a premier university to do that. So I was accepted to Georgetown and did my undergraduate there.
But you hung out on Howard's campus, right?
I did.
Okay,
I
just had
did.
to be
So
clear
Howard
with that.
has amazing speaker series every Sunday. So I would go hear Cornel West and Vernon Jordan and Gardner Taylor. In fact, I have two photos. Vernon Jordan's one of my heroes in life.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, died last year. I met his daughter earlier this year in Martha's Vineyard, which was a whole other story.
Oh, that
was one of his favorite vacation places.
Yes, it was. I read that.
So the two photos I have with him were taken at Howard after he spoke at Crampton Auditorium.
Nice.
So,
you know I had to put a shameless
Exactly.
plug for my
And I got my hair cut at Joseph's across the street and Best Cuts before that. So, you know, it was great being in D.C. because of being able to intern. I interned for Senator Bill Frist on the Republican side, the Senate side, because he was the senator from Tennessee. And then I interned for Jesse Jackson Jr., who was on the House side representing the South side of Chicago. Because I was sensing in my senior year, which is when I interned for Jesse Jr., that I wanted to go to law school. And so I wanted to go to law school in Chicago and got into the University of Chicago Law School. Had a great experience there. But at the end of my first year, to your question about how I ended up in Gary.
Yes. I just love the whole adventure, though, from
Absolutely.
Tennessee to D.C. to Chicago.
Exactly.
Okay.
So Richard Leverett, who's an alum of where we are, West Side Leadership Academy.
Yes.
Before he was the mayor's chief of staff and now a bigwig at AT&T out west now. We were law classmates. spent our first year together and all throughout law school. And he invited a bunch of folks to come out and campaign for Barack Obama back in the spring of 2008. Seems like forever ago now.
I know, with us being in 2022 now.
Exactly.
Crazy.
And so between classes, he invited a lot of folks who are not from this part of the world, but who had perceptions about Gary, right, and what they expected to see. But he took them to some areas that they did not expect, and one of those areas is in Miller. And so they were walking. And
everybody was
they were
shock
like,
and
wow,
awe,
there's
right?
a lakefront in Gary, and
yes.
dunes and deer, and what is all this?
Yes.
And so I came out the following weekend when I heard them talk about this between class, just to be nosy.
Right.
So I said, well, I got to figure something out. I wasn't in real estate at that time, but I did look up a house just so I had something to put in my GPS.
Like, let me just drive over
Let
here
me find
and
an
see.
address to put in my little GPS. And so I made a little day out of it. So I said, okay, there's this restaurant I see, Dusty's, which used to be.
You have
remember
been here a
Dusty's?
minute. Yes,
right?
I
so
do.
That was back across from the Rail Cats, now the Art House. So I went and had lunch at Dusty's, and then I drove. And of course, you can get lost in Miller. In the
Easily,
hills, right?
Yes.
So
but it's a good kind of loss
it's a good kind
because
of loss.
it's so scenic.
Exactly.
Yes.
So I'm waving around, driving around, and I come down Shelby, and it's May. And so people are starting to go to the beach, and I'm seeing all these folks. It's diverse, and the Flamingo, and the Beach Cafe, and the Marquette Perk that was there.
Yes.
And so I'm like, what is this? This is crazy.
This
so
is Gary.
this is wonderful, right?
Yes.
So I keep driving around, and I basically pull up to the house that I now live in. Right?
What
and that
an
was 14 years
amazing
ago.
Story.
That was 14 years ago. So I called Richard and said, hey, I just put an offer on a house.
He was like, what?
Are you serious? Right.
So serious.
And he was the only person I knew
Yeah.
at that point. But of course, over the years, I came to meet a whole lot of folks.
Me
and,
included. And
exactly,
I'm so
exactly,
delighted.
Exactly.
So that is the story so far of our council president, William Godwin, we're chatting with. And certainly we're going to get into education. But I had to know, your story sounds like a documentary. And I also would just say that you sharing this story, it is my hope that a young person will watch this and be inspired to say no matter where your start is, that you can move around, navigate, have an adventure, and land up in an amazing place.
Absolutely.
And so when we come back, we are going to talk more about education and government and all things William Godwin. You are watching A Day in the District, a show that's designed to help you, the reader and viewer and community lover, stay connected to your Gary Community School Corporation. Stay right there. We'll be right back with more with Councilman William Godwin.
When you join the Army, the first thing they teach you is how to get in line. Not exactly the same in high school. When I enrolled in Westside Leadership Academy and joined ROTC, the first thing I learned was respect. Not just for God and country, but for myself.
Gary Schools, strong, resilient, built for education.
It's gross. I don't really want to talk about it.
She didn't want to at first, but I mean, it's no big deal. Everybody does it.
I was ready, totally ready, because we had been practicing this dance for weeks.
He was supposed to take this girl to this dance, but
I sprained my ankle at track practice.
I hate sharing anything personal. It's so disgusting.
For the dance, I let her wear my shoes and she hated it, but I thought she looked great in them.
he could barely even walk.
I ended up taking some pills for my pain.
Yeah, they were my mom's, but
It didn't go well.
If it's not yours,
If it's not yours,
if it's not yours,
Hey you,
don't take it.
don't take it.
don't take it.
don't take it. You won't believe what happened next.
Welcome back to A Day in the District. I'm your host, Chelsea Whittington, having a ball chatting with our council president, William Godwin. I am so intrigued on how you landed in Gary. Shout out to Attorney Richard Leverett for the introduction.
That's right.
You just never know. The people whom you connect in school with can change the whole trajectory of your life. So I'm
Absolutely.
ready for the next part.
Yeah.
So you buy the house in Gary, you see how great the people are,
Right.
and then you want to immerse yourself in the culture and more
Absolutely.
so the politics and helping the community. So tell me about
Exactly. Well, it started with entrepreneurship.
that. Okay.
Right. So I decided to go full time into real estate. I was very involved in the nonprofit arena,
Okay.
especially in the Chicagoland area. And I decided to really, I'd always been doing this real estate thing on the side. I actually got my real estate license in law school.
Okay.
And of course, it was a major recession. We're talking 2009, right? So, but it was a good time to learn.
Right.
And I kept the skill set, and I would do it on the side. I'd do 2, 3, 4 transactions a year. And I decided in 2016, let's just really dig
Jump
deep
in,
into this.
yeah.
I was licensed in Indiana, in addition to Illinois, and so I opened my own brokerage and started out in my house.
Don't we all?
Exactly. You build up, right?
Yes.
And then I got a small office on Lake Street inside of a building, and then I got a storefront in the summer of, I guess it was 2017. We moved out of there. And so now I added Michigan and continued to sell in all 3 markets, working with buyers and sellers. But I'm principally selling in Northwest Indiana.
Okay.
And so it's been quite interesting to listen to and learn from a variety of folks who are both moving in and moving out, right?
yeah.
And that gives me an insight, right, into what's happening. What is it that draws people to Gary, Indiana? What are concerns that people have?
Yeah.
And slowly, as I grew my real estate business, I was tapped, if you will, to get involved.
We have a habit of doing that in these parts. We will.
So I
tap
got
you,
put
'cause
on
I'm
some
sitting here
committees. I got put on some
listening to
committees.
you. I'm listening to you now, William, and I'm like, ooh, I have a whole plan to have you come speak to students.
I'd love
because
to.
I'm hearing 3
Yeah.
layers of all types of career opportunities.
Yes.
Talking to them about the real estate game, talking to them about law school, and then talking to them about public service.
Absolutely.
So you know I was going to circle back
Yeah,
some way with the
yep,
district
yep.
because I love Gary Community Schools. But continue
Yes,
as you
so-
were tapped.
Yeah, I got involved with the Gary Port Authority.
Okay.
So former mayor Karen Freeman Wilson.
I think I know her.
You know her, right?
Yes.
So she saw a lot of the work that I was doing as a young entrepreneur and said, hey, have you ever thought about serving on recreating this Port Authority? And I said, sure, so I got to meet people, got involved, and then, I decided I kind of wanted to run for office.
Yeah.
And I decided, let me just see. So I started by just talking to folks. Getting what
Because I was going to
call-
say,
Yeah.
while we are some of the most amazing people on the
Yeah.
planet, we can be hard nuts to crack when we're like,
Who is he?
but you're not from here. Because
Absolutely.
in our minds, and everybody won't admit it, but in
Yeah.
our minds, if you're not from here, you just don't know us. But you are
Right,
proving
right.
us wrong that you can relocate here and really become Gary.
Absolutely, and it's important. And I didn't start with myself, I started with others.
Okay.
Listening to people who had been here their whole lives, folks who had been here a few years, and hearing, again, the concerns, the issues, the questions, the hopes, the aspirations, and marrying those with my own experiences as a homeowner,
Okay.
as a business owner, and as someone who had gotten involved even with the Charter School of the Dunes. I mean,
Yeah.
just a variety of things
Yeah.
within the community based on what I knew then.
Yes.
And so my nature is to be involved and to ask questions. But to your point, there is an outsider-insider
Oh,
thing,
yes.
But I think as the city grows and develops, we have to embrace a variety of voices.
Oh,
I tell
please.
people, we're in the Chicago media market. Lori Lightfoot's from Ohio. Toni Preckwinkle is from Minnesota.
Yes, she is.
Barack Obama, Hawaii.
Yes.
Right? So, we can learn a lesson, right? In the sense that there's a lot of things, whether it's school, whether it's friendships, whether it's housing, whatever, that brings people to our community if they're valid and they take time to get to know the community and be part of it.
Yeah, and truly being
Right.
sincere about it. So I'm curious, before we talk about your run, your successful run on the first run, of what you thought from an educational standpoint. So you work with Charter School of the Dunes,
Right.
but
Yeah.
as an outside eye coming in saying, this educational system is what?
Well, first, I grew up in public schools.
Okay.
We didn't have charter schools, and private schools were to me, inferior to our traditional public school system. And that was in Tennessee. And my understanding, and I'm sure you know it as the valedictorian of this high school.
Well, salutatorian, in case the
Salutatorian.
valedictorian watches. Sorry, Amia, I was number 2.
But top 10, top 5, right?
For sure.
That a good public education system is an indicator of a good community and a strong community.
Absolutely.
And so when I hear folks talk negatively about the public schools, I'm like, okay, you're not going to improve your city. We are not going to improve our city unless we make an investment in our school system.
Yes.
Right? And as a real estate person, right, that's one of the key things that
you
people
have
want
to.
to know. How good are the schools? What kinds of programs and activities do the schools have? Do they have arts? Do they have athletics? What are the grades? And when you look at the top performing neighborhoods and cities in our area, whether it's Valparaiso or St. John, Dyer, Munster, what do they have?
Crown
Excellent
Point,
public
excellent
schools, right?
Yes.
And they've had to pay for that, right? Beyond what is allotted through our property tax dollars, all of those places have had to do referenda.
I'm
As
sorry,
unpopular,
they had to pay for that. I didn't know if
as
your mic was
unpopular,
on.
oh, okay, as unpopular as that is, right? And
Yeah.
so I understand it. We are not going to turn our community around without a strong public school system.
Yes.
Nothing against charters, nothing
Right.
against private schools. They
It's
play
just
a role,
factual.
right?
Yeah.
But I would tell you, you'd be hard pressed to find a charter school in Valparaiso or Crown Point or St. John and Dyer because they understand the importance
investment.
of a strong public school system.
Oh, wow. This is really some great conversation, and I'm glad that you have brought that up because that's going to take the space of our final segment. But I will give kudos to your point about community support in those that supported our referendum, which we will talk about,
Yes.
because that started the line of thinking to say when one invests in their own, you will see those results. And as you mentioned at the top of the show, the improvements like this studio, like right now, the bleachers being replaced.
Football stadium.
The football stadium.
I've
which
been
is,
to a couple of the games
I
this
saw
season.
you out there
Yeah,
cheering
it was
for
cold,
Dear
but
West
it was
Side.
good.
This is good,
Absolutely.
and the jumbotrons. All
Yes.
this tie in to working together, and especially in government. So we're going to wrap the show up in the final segment, talking about how we're going to work together to keep it moving. You are watching A Day in the District. A Day in the District is just for you to stay connected to your Gary Community School Corporation. We're chatting with William Godwin, who is president of the Gary Common Council. And when we come back, we're going to talk about plans moving forward through government, the school district, and all the things that we want to see as a community. Stay right there, and we'll be right back.
Hello, my name is Dr. Paige McNulty. I'm the manager for the Gary Community School Corporation, and I am pleased to be joined today with the Jackson 5 family members, Tito and Marlon Jackson.
Hi,
how are you? Thanks for being here today.
Not only are we members of the world-famous Jackson 5, but we are proud products of the Gary schools.
Growing up in Gary, our school system afforded great opportunities from academics to extracurricular activities.
And today is no different. This is why we encourage you to enroll your child in the Gary schools today.
For more information, please call 219-881-5466 or visit garyschools.org. And please remember, enroll in Gary Schools today.
Yes,
Right,
definitely enroll.
Gary Schools.
Strong, resilient.
Built for education.
Welcome back to A Day in the District. I can't believe we're in our final segment, so let me hurry up and jump into my conversation with William Godwin, who is the president of the Gary Common Council. We've been talking so much about you moving to Gary, giving us that perspective from someone who is not originally from here. So I will just tell you that I appreciate your perspective. For those of us who are born and raised here, I feel like have been injected with this love of Gary, that no matter what anybody says, no matter what anybody does, this is home and we love it. But we talk about the importance of investing in ourselves, and I made mention of the referendum, working with our manager, Dr. Paige McNulty, and so many members from your team as well, to do the groundwork, to help people to know that if you don't invest, then all those things that you see in neighboring communities won't come to pass here in Gary. So,
It's true.
Fast forward, you did your run for the council, successful run, and now you have jumped all the way in. Can you explain to our viewers, what is your role? What do you have to do as a councilman?
So, contrary to popular belief, we don't run the day-to-day government of the city, right? We are the legislative branch of government. So just like the U.S. Congress is legislative branch, our state legislators at the state level, our county council persons at the county level, we're legislators.
Okay.
So principally, we write and review existing legislation. We approve the city's budget. We review it, we ask questions, we have powers to reduce certain things, to request certain things to be in the budget, because budgets are moral documents. They show where our priorities are as a city. And of course, throughout the budget year, we make changes because things come up, right? Costs come up. Who knew inflation was going to be what it is in terms of fuel? Because just like everybody else, we have to make adjustments. And so during the fiscal year, you'll often see the council move money, right, or make adjustments to the budget. And lastly, we advocate on behalf of our areas. So we have 6 council districts, and then we have 3 at-large members of the council for a total of 9 council persons. Each district council person especially, right, champions their neighborhoods, tries to get resources back to their neighborhoods. But of course, that requires working with the administration, who has to agree because they run the day-to-day operations, paving, plowing, potholes, policing,
snow removal, garbage,
parks,
all of that. I know it well.
That all falls under the mayor's office. We can raise a lot of noise and ask, but ultimately that's the mayor. But we are advocates for our areas. A lot of us, most of us, go way beyond the minimum constitutional requirements or statutory requirements for a council person.
Would you say that comes out of the love for the city?
Absolutely. You know, and the desire to make sure people are aware. So what we have done is created a Gary Common Council radio show where we're on once or twice a month, now twice a month on WLTH.
We're going to get you over to WGV.
Exactly. So we're looking forward to doing that very soon with Jeffrey.
Yes.
We used to be with him. We're going to do that again.
Yes.
And of course, we also do newsletters, some of us, to ensure that the public is aware of what is happening.
Yes.
You know, beyond the day-to-day government, we're called on. People want to know, what do we think about issues at the school system, you know, issues at the sanitary district, to help them resolve some of those conflicts. So we are leaders.
Now people understand why you are sitting in this chair today, because sometimes people say, well, of course he's over here, it's election season, and we're going to talk about who to vote for. No, this is all about how government and school corporations need to work together. So fast forward, we had COVID. There were some dollars that, silver lining, if you will, of the whole situation with the pandemic, where we were allowed to make a lot of the improvements. And certainly there are more improvements to be made that dollars don't necessarily cover. But with the input from the council and you all advocating for your communities, that includes schools. So talk to me more about the council and the educational system and how those two work together.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think this school district got about $54 million.
A little bit.
Right, which has been very helpful.
Yes.
The city got $81 million. The county, who people often don't talk about, got $94 million. So Lake County. What we're trying to do is really boost the areas across the city. So a $10 million investment, for example, within creating a YMCA, right? Partnering with the Boys and Girls Club, Methodist hospitals, and others, right? Which is going to help youth in our city, because we know
they need somewhere to go.
Exactly. There's life between 3 p.m. and 7 or 8 a.m., right?
Which is critical.
Exactly. We have to have enrichment activities. We're investing in parks. We know that gathering places, being in nature, is extremely important for not just kids, students, young adults, all of us, right? To get out there. So investments are being made in that way. We're able to do more paving in the city because of dollars we were saving, right? By not having to spend those directly. Public safety, police and fire.
Now that's
So,
almost kind of sort of number one. I know
That's
when I worked
absolutely
in
number one.
government,
That's number
people
one.
wanted to know. And for your business,
Right.
is it safe? Schools,
Exactly.
activities, businesses, but it kept circling back to, is it safe?
Exactly. And we're doing home ownership, down payment assistance programs, et cetera.
Yes, I
But
read
all
about
of these
that.
things, right? When we make the area more attractive, when we make the city of Gary more attractive, we're able to recruit and retain families.
Yes.
Recruit and retain students, right?
Yes.
Who will go to this top-rate public school system that we're also in the process of creating,
Yes,
right? So
yes.
the cycle between what government is doing in terms of creating an environment where our school system, our families, our children can succeed is important, but also jobs.
Yes.
Right? Our redevelopment
So that our
commission.
parents can have the
Yeah,
opportunities to support the
Exactly.
families, I guess.
So our redevelopment commission is charged with recruiting businesses to come here. One of the first questions they want to know, okay, we'll buy this site of land you have available or this abandoned building and turn it into a business, but how are your schools?
Exactly.
And we have to be able to speak to that when we're trying to attract companies to locate here.
Yes.
And of course, they then want to be able to send their kids to good schools. They want to have good neighborhood assets. All of those things work together in a cyclical, interrelated way. And so we cannot ignore each other.
Exactly.
But we have to function in
We have
partnership
to work
with
together.
each other.
Well said, Counselor. If you can believe it, we are down to our last minute, but we did talk about the importance of our community, our parents, our stakeholders getting involved. Can you just briefly give me about 20 seconds of the importance of them also attending council meeting and committee meetings? Right there, go.
Well, listen, we are your government, but we represent you. And it's important that we hear from you. You should know how your government works. You should contribute. You should ask questions. You should give us your insight. Many times we have board positions that are available. It's not just about running for office. We have the library board, the park board, economic development commission, you name it. A number of ways for everyday citizens not only to vote, but also after the election to stay engaged, to stay involved, and to be present in us creating a new and better Gary, Indiana.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here from our council president, William Godwin. Thank you so much for being a part of A Day in the District.
Thank you.
Learn more about your government by going to gary.gov and your Gary School Corporation at garyschools.org. I've been your host, Chelsea Whittington. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
WS